me first, thank you so much. Thanks for the YMCA here and for all the organizations also gathered here and for all the individuals who came to listen to me. I will have two parts of my presentation. One will be talking about the history of the Palestinian question with the description of the current situation in Palestine, mainly in Gaza. And the second will be talking about the Palestinian civil society and our achievements and what we expect from it. The creation of Israel has led to a human catastrophe, Nakba, due to the ethnic cleansing of the indigenous Palestinian people. In 1948, the Zionist militant groups committed many massacres against the Palestinian people that resulted in the killing of thousands and the expelling of some 700,000 Palestinians who became refugees. The Palestinian refugees are dispersed in Palestine, the neighboring Arab countries, and all over the world. Most of them live in refugee camps waiting for the international law to be enforced and returned back home. As the result of the Nakba, Israel was established on 78 of our historic Palestine and on the Palestinian sufferings until now. In the aftermath of the war of 1967, Israel occupied the remaining 22% of Palestine. East Jerusalem, West Bank, and Gaza became immediately under the direct military occupation, adding more sufferings to the Palestinian people. In the year 1993, Israel and the Palestinian leadership in diaspora signed the first Oslo Accords under the patronage of the international community to be an interim agreement for 5 years that was supposed to end with the establishment of the Palestinian state, based on the concept of land for peace as in the international law. More similar agreements were signed, like Oslo II and Cairo Agreement, that were proven to only be serving the state of Israel. Oslo Accords and the other sub-agreements signed lacked the key basis for building a just peace. They were neither based on the international law nor on the respect of human rights as the foundation for future negotiations, and that's why they failed. During the same period, Israel built illegal settlements on the Palestinian occupied territories. According to B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights organization, Israel has somehow now 623,000 Israeli settlers living in the occupied Palestinian territories. Because of the ongoing Israeli violations of the international law, the Palestinians are now considered living under settler, colonial, and apartheid system built on the negation of the Palestinian national and human rights. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, B'Tselem, and Yesh Deans, these are all human rights organizations, and many United Nations and global groups reports declared Israel recently as an apartheid state. Let me talk now something about Gaza. 2/3 of the Palestinians living in Gaza are refugees who were expelled from the neighboring villages and cities that became part of Israel after the Nakba. They have been living under blockade and in miserable conditions for the past 17 years. They were also attacked by Israel for 7 times since then. Gaza Strip has been under strict control by Israel and live in the biggest world open-air prison with limited access to basic human needs. 95% of the drinking water is polluted. Electric power, is usually cut for an average of 14 hours a day. The movement is restricted and most of the people in Gaza have never traveled outside due to the Israeli restrictions imposed. Food, medicine, fuel, building materials, and basic human needs must be approved by Israel so as to enter Gaza.
2023년 10월 7일 이후 가자 지구에 대한 이스라엘의 대량 학살 작전으로 인해 발생한 사상자와 파괴에 대한 몇 가지 수치입니다. 2024년 5월 18일 기준으로 말씀드리겠습니다. 35,386명의 팔레스타인인이 살해됐습니다. 이 중에는 어린이 약 15,000명 이상 그리고 여성 약 10,000명이 포함되어 있었습니다.
Some other 10,000 Palestinians are reported missing and might have been killed or trapped under the rubble without reach. Almost 80,000 people get injured, 11,000 of whom are to travel out of Gaza for medical treatment. 2 million Palestinians were forcibly displaced and moved to the south of Gaza Strip. Most of them are now living in Rafah under miserable conditions. This is actually considered another Nakba and worse than the one of 1948. 5,000 people were detained with no information about their detention conditions. The International Red Cross Society is not allowed to visit them. Now let me talk about the destruction, the things that you have seen, part of which in the film. 87,000 housing units were fully destroyed and 297,000 other facilities were partially damaged. 305 schools, 10 university buildings, 230 mosques, 3 churches, 200 heritage centers, and 171 governmental facilities were fully destroyed. Israel has also imposed a cut of water and electric power supplies and the entry of food, medicine, and fuel, and left people starving and developing diseases and famine. Gaza, which has been under siege for the past 17 years, has become a place that people can't live in and can't also live, a place where starvation, suffering, and death take place every moment. In the West Bank, which is the other part of Palestine, the situation is also tense. There are daily incursions or military incursions on an average of 15 towns, cities, and refugee camps. Until April 27th, 493 Palestinians were killed in West Bank by the Israeli army and the Israeli illegal settlers, including 123 children, women, elder, and prisoners. Some 8,500 people from the West Bank get arrested and mostly placed under administrative detention without any charges. Many of the infrastructure facilities in Tulkarem, Jenin, and Nablus areas were destroyed during these incursions. This included streets, water, and power networks. The Palestinian perspective on the solution. We believe that people are equal in humanity and dignity and have the right to defend themselves and their land if occupied. This is in accordance with international law. The world community has done nothing more than talking about human rights, international law, peace, and the need to respect the two-state solution. Practically, most of the countries have done nothing concrete to make sure that the international law and the concept of the two-state solution is protected. Hypocrisy, double standards, and complicity of the Western countries are more clear now and have never been actually clearer as it is now. So most of the Palestinian people lost hope in the political process, and that more and more believe that resistance in its all forms is the answer to this oppression. Due to the lack of accountability and the impunity that Israel still enjoys, it can go with all its war crimes, crimes against humanity, and the crime of the genocide without any deterrence. It's good also to remember, and this is a sign of hope, that despite of all these official positions of countries, the Palestinian people enjoys the growing support and solidarity from many countries and many people and civil society groups, unions, students, and from peace-loving people worldwide who respect the Palestinian rights and condemn the Israeli atrocities. I will first talk about two big NGO or civil society coalitions, and then I will mention some human rights organizations, and some Christian organizations, and their efforts in peace building. Palestinian Non-Governmental Organizations Network, PNGO, is a civil and democratic body that strives for the attainment of the legitimate national rights of the Palestinian people. It's the umbrella of 133 member organizations working in different developmental fields. PNGO participates in international civil society gatherings and share reports and issue statements on the Palestinian situation and spread widely. BDS, which is Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions, is a Palestinian-led movement for freedom, justice and equality. Established in 2005, BDS upholds the simple principle that Palestinians are entitled to the same rights as the rest of humanity. BDS is supported by the entire Palestinian civil society groups that includes actually Palestinian Christian organizations. BDS is a very successful coalition of 176 Palestinian groups that has made remarkable progress on consumer boycott, academic and cultural boycott, in addition to divestment and sanctions. And now I'll talk about 3 human rights organizations. Defense for Children International, DCI Palestine, is an independent local Palestinian child rights organization dedicating to defending and promoting the rights of the children living in West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza. DCI submits alternative reports to the UN agencies concerned on the status of the Palestinian child rights. Badil, Resource Center for Palestinian Residency and Refugee Rights, is an independent human rights non-profit organization committed to defend and promote the rights of the Palestinian refugees and the internally displaced people. Badil submits reports on the status of the Palestinian refugees and displaced persons to the Human Rights Council and to the UN Commission and Rapporteurs concerned. Al-Haq is an independent Palestinian human rights organization that seeks to promote Palestinian people's human rights, defend them and enhance the rule of law and the culture and values of human rights according to the principles of international human rights and humanitarian law, and fight impunity through holding perpetrators of violations of these laws accountable irrespective of their nationality. Al-Haq makes documentation of the war crimes and crimes against humanity that are committed by Israel and working closely with the International Criminal Court. Al-Haq submits annual reports to the international commissions and UN agencies concerned on the status of human rights in the Palestinian occupied territory. I will talk about also a few Palestinian Christian groups. Kairos Palestine is a Christian Palestinian movement born out of the Kairos document, which advocates for ending the illegal Israeli occupation and achieving a just solution to the conflict. Kairos declares occupation as a sin against God and humanity, and calls churches to stand in costly solidarity with the Palestinian people. Kairos calls for creative resistance to occupation and oppression based on the commandment of love. It also criticizes the weaponization of the Bible by the Christian Zionists and the silent churches and calls them to repent. The Global Kairos for Justice Coalition was established in December 2011. Currently, the Global Kairos movement has working groups in 35 different countries. The Global Kairos movement has issued many calls and solidarity tools and statements targeting mainly the churches and the ecumenical movement. We'll skip the second paragraph and continue with the Joint Advocacy Initiative. In 2003, the Joint Advocacy Initiative, which I used to lead until recently, of the East Jerusalem YMCA and the YMCA of Palestine, was launched to advocate on just peace within the YMCAs and YWCAs worldwide and within the ecumenical movement. The Keep Hope Alive Olive Tree campaign of the JI has so far succeeded to get support of some 350,000 olive trees from some 170,000 people from around the world, in addition to many YMCAs, YWCAs, and ecumenical bodies. They supported the Palestinian farmers and their right to access and maintain their land. The entire Palestinian civil society organizations had a vision of a free and democratic Palestine, and many of them have advocacy activities, especially the human rights-based organizations, like the one mentioned above. They refute and respond to the Zionist settler colonial and racist ideology, as well as Christian Zionist thoughts and beliefs. The Palestinian civil society considered Israel as a settler, colonial, and apartheid state, and calling for freedom, justice, and equality through the respect and the enforcement of the international law. I'll skip the second paragraph, I'll skip it. Below are the main contributions of the Palestinian Christians in Just Peace that were realized in full cooperation with the solidarity groups worldwide. The Palestinian Christian groups and organizations have educated the churches and the ecumenical movements worldwide about the Palestinian context, about the fact that the Palestinian Christians belong to the first church, about the fact that Christianity was originated in our land, in Palestine. We helped educate the world that we are part of the Palestinian people, and that we have always participated in national resistance movement and had actually led many resistant groups like the PFLP and the DFLP. JAI, Kairos, Sabeel, the ATG, and the Arab Educational Institutes, and many others have participated in hundreds of ecumenical gatherings where the Palestinian question was addressed. Some of these were like the General Assemblies of the World Council of Churches, the World Student Christian Federation, the World Council of the YMCAs, and the World Council of YWCAs, as well as the meetings for the Lutheran World Federation and ACT Alliance gatherings, in addition to many others. We contributed to the creation of the International Solidarity Movement. They are great solidarity groups that organize activities for Palestine and issues many statements and reports on the current situation in Gaza and the West Bank. The International Solidarity Movement was actually created in my hometown, in Bet Sahur, in 1989, when the town was under siege due to the tax disobedience initiative. We also contributed very much to the issuance of solidarity resolutions made by the ecumenical movements, like the resolution of the World Student Christian Federation, the resolutions actually, in their General Assembly in 2015 and in the General Assembly of 2022, supporting the BDS and Kairos and declaring Israel as an apartheid state. Also the resolution of the World Alliance of YMCAs, mentioning occupation and apartheid in the years 2002 and the years 2022, and the resolution of the World YWCA that considered Israel as an apartheid state last year. Add to this the resolution made by the Synod of the United Church of Christ in the USA that also declared Israel as an apartheid state. We at the JI actually sent a recorded message on apartheid to that Synod, and we believe that we contributed much to the issuance of that resolution.